Good morning, Raleigh. I'm Kayla G, and this is Rise and Unwind. Yes, we know it's a little early, but think of it as the calm before your day really gets going. We've got what's happening around town, what people are talking about, and a few things to help you wake up without needing that third cup of coffee yet. So stick with us. We'll ease you into the day the right way. This week, we've got this.
We want them to know that you don't have to navigate this process alone. We're here to help you understand what your options are and to feel confident throughout that process.
It was probably in my late 50s, and it wasn't a nice experience. The shaking, initially just the shaking of hands, minor shaking of hands, got worse. Progressively worse.
We were looking for a way to basically thank our guests for their support of our business.
All that and more right here on Rise and Unwind Raleigh.
Most people think it could never happen to them until somebody suddenly takes over a property and the legal process turns into a total nightmare. A&E's series Squatters follows Flash Shelton and his team as they help homeowners reclaim their homes in some pretty tense and emotional situations. Flash pretty much first got in this world after dealing with some squatters in his own family home, and now he's helping people across the country. Welcome to the show, Flash. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, your story started when squatters took over your mom's home. What was that experience like for your whole family?
You know, I kept it from my family actually, until later, but I couldn't tell my mom. My dad had just passed away, and I moved her in with me to sell her home and to help her have a fresh start and, closer to family. But, navigating that situation and learning all about squatters is what I needed to do to just be the good son. And my family, I couldn't tell my mom. She was still distraught over my dad. I just told her that I needed a lease so I could go up and be on the property to do some repairs. And, it was successful. I learned a lot about squatters and I out-squatted them. I figured if they could take a house, I could take a house.
And now that the show is out, what kind of reaction have you been getting from some of the viewers?
Everyone's excited. And, I think that the fact that the awareness is, it's teaching people what a squatter is and that they are normal people. They are just entitled and figured, that there's a flaw in the system. They should be able to take advantage of it. I think, people truly understanding that squatters are not homeless people. So squatters and a homeless in a housing crisis have nothing to do with each other.
And some of these situations on the series tend to be really intense. Was there one case in the season that surprised even you?
Yeah, I had a case where, there's several people and, I'm always hearing that, they're drug dealers or they're, committing crimes on the property or something. And, a lot of times it's I have to look into it and I don't find any evidence of that. But in other cases, we just have to go in extremely careful. I don't want anyone to get hurt, including a squatter. So I think that the fact that, it's just there are different types of cases every single day and different stories. So at this point, it's like, I don't know that anything surprises me.
And what do most people misunderstand about the squatting laws and how difficult these situations can become for homeowners?
I think that there is a misconception about squatter laws and tenant laws. Tenant laws in a lot of states were written under the, guides that a homeowner is rich and a tenant is poor. But anyone who owns a home knows that just because you own a mortgage doesn't make you rich. And tenants are not all poor. Some people just choose to rent. So, it's I think that there's a misconception about the laws themselves and the fact that there is no line between a squatter and a tenant. So squatters are assuming tenant rights.
And after helping in more than 100 cases, what advice would you give homeowners to help protect themselves before something like this happens to them?
Documentation, like being able to document when an intruder enters and how they enter. In today's day and age, there is no excuse not to have a camera that you can monitor from your phone anywhere in the world. When somebody walks up your driveway, you get alerted. When somebody goes into your mailbox, you get alerted. If you can monitor when they enter, they are now arrested as a trespasser and they will never become your squatter.
Flash Shelton, I really want to thank you for joining me today. You can catch episodes of Squatters now on A&E with streaming available on the A&E app and at anetv.com. Flash, thanks for joining me again today.
All right, thanks for having me.
What if a high school class helped breathe new life into a decades-old murder investigation? That's the incredible true story behind Murder 101. The new docuseries follows students who uncover new leads in a cold case while learning that they can make a real difference. Joining us is director Stacey Lee, who brings this remarkable story to the screen. Stacey, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much.
This whole story starts in a high school sociology class. At what point did you realize this was way bigger than a classroom assignment?
Probably from the very first day. You know, Mr. Campbell brings a lot of main character energy, shall we say. Before I started, I got to witness him in action, teaching actually another class, history, I think it was. And that man knows how to deliver a story. You know, he would just have the plot lines and the drama like ramping up until the final bell where students are like teetering on a cliffhanger. And he just like, they're dying to come back the next day. And I think like, what other teacher has students excited to come to class the next day? Not many, that's for sure.
The series follows students investigating the redhead murders. What impressed you the most about the way these young people approach such a difficult and even emotional case?
I think the students' superpower is truly their ability to empathize with the victims. You know, when you see so much true crime, it's oftentimes the hero, the killer becomes like somehow the hero. And because these victims were oftentimes the same age as the students, they went missing from malls, they went missing from football matches, places and circumstances that the students themselves are also doing and experiencing at the same time. I think it just hits really different. And so immediately the women become humanized. They become so much more than a statistic or a body found on the side of the road. They start to become like friends or sisters, or, you know, they know that they have loved ones. And then immediately once they start seeing them that way and caring for them that way, you know, they're empowered to share that with the community around them. And truly with cold cases, because it's been so long, the biggest thing to affect change is affecting the change in the community, you know, in the hopes that someone might know something and speak up.
True crime can sometimes focus more on the mystery than the people involved. How important was it for you to keep the victims and their families at the heart of this story?
Incredibly important, because I think that's what the students resonated with as well. Like, you know, my job as a documentary filmmaker is to truly immerse myself in their world so I can most authentically translate that to screen. And, you know, really taking the students' lead, Mr. Campbell's lead, like what are they most curious about? What are they most interested in? And oftentimes it was the things we were already feeling ourselves. And my favorite true crime is the true crime when you feel like you're part of it, that you're an investigator on the case as well. And that's how we really wanted this series to feel, that you're following along, you're learning details, you're putting clues together at the same time the students are, so that you're really engaged and you care about it, you know, just as much as they do.
You've directed documentaries about music and culture before. What drew you to true crime, and what made Murder 101 the right project for your first documentary in this genre?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I've always loved youth culture and coming of age stories. And I think that there was something incredibly unique about the mashup of these two worlds, right? Like high school life, breakups, prom, graduation, like all of these like seminal moments in teenage life, you know, juxtaposed side by side with like really dark, grisly, intense true crime. I was fascinated by how these two very opposing forces could kind of work together. And I think ultimately the effect is you just start to turn the genre on its head. You start to see a genre that is, you know, very well played out in today's culture in a new light. You see the victims differently, but most importantly, you know, as I expressed earlier, it's like, you start to see the teenagers differently, what they're capable of when you actually believe in them.
What do you hope viewers take away, not just from the investigation, but from seeing what these students were able to accomplish?
I think one of the biggest Trojan horses in this story is about the power of like a really good teacher. The effect of this real world learning, of giving the students real stakes, changes the way they care about and engage with the material that they're interacting with. You know, the education system obviously really leans into testing and things like that allows us to like standardize a large population. But real world learning is unpredictable. It is, has all these things that are quite challenging to kind of govern, but it also has a profound effect on the students who can engage with it in a meaningful way. And I think that for me, opens up a much larger conversation about how we teach teenagers. Is it that they're just not concentrating or not learning, or is it that they're not engaged? Does it not have a real world impact on their lives and what they're going to, face as they leave high school?
Hey, I want to thank you for joining me today. Murder 101 is streaming now on Prime Video, where all 3 episodes are available to watch. Stacey Lee, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So what would you do if someone from your past came back to turn your life upside down? That's the chilling idea behind Cape Fear, the new psychological thriller that's been keeping viewers on edge. Joining us today are Lily Collias and Malia Pyles, who play Natalie Bowden and Nevaeh Valentine in the series. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Hey, we're
good.
How are you?
To be here.
Very happy to be here.
Cape Fear is packed with suspense, but it's also very character-driven. What drew each of you to your characters?
I think the fluidity of her arc, for me personally, I think Natalie is the kind of girl who didn't ever have to second guess things in her life. And it was so interesting to play someone that I don't think it's calculated whatsoever, because, the circumstances are so specific that playing with what she's feeling even on that day or that night, because she's just finding out new things every single day. It was just such a blessing.
Yeah. I love Natalie so much.
She loves Nevaeh.
I know. And we love each other.
What can we say?
I mean, with Nevaeh, it was similar where it's it was pretty obvious right off the bat that she's a deeply complex character. And I so value Nick, our showrunners and our creators, writing. I mean, just based off her name too, Nevaeh is literally heaven backwards. I was there's an immediacy to. I'm there's an attention to detail and a style to this show that's really intriguing to me. And I never had the opportunity to play a character that's so villainous at times. And I think that was such a cool person to be in step with for so many months.
Without giving anything away, your characters develop an interesting friendship. What was it like building that relationship together on set?
I mean, it's so easy because Malia as a person is someone that I connect with. I'm so grateful to call her one of my best friends now. Yeah. We really had each other's backs, and we go through some intimate things together as characters, and the fact that we would be able to go home together and discuss and kind of just throw ideas to a wall together was just such a blessing, because at the end of the day, all we want to do is play. So it was just so fun to have that relationship with you.
Yeah, there was an immediacy there. I mean, we met in the car and we were just both completely vibrating with energy, and it was really easy to fall in love with these characters and then fall in love with her in a lot of ways. I mean, like she said, we'd go home from work after these crazy long days and watch movies together and then bring parts of those movies into work the next day and be hey, can we bring this to our characters? And so, I mean, it was in a lot of ways just a great lesson in trust and building something that feels at times greater than just the work you're putting out.
The series has such an incredible cast, including Javier Bardem, Amy Adams, Patrick Wilson. What did you learn from working alongside actors like that?
So much every single day. I think at the core of it is to put things that are genuinely important in your life first, and your artistry comes alongside with your life. And they were just always so grounded and humble with their ways of teaching. And I think Javier feels very almost dreamlike in his process, and Amy's super technical. Everyone just brought different things to the table, and I feel it all just mixed so well together.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like doing a horror beat with Patrick Wilson when you get to be the creepy thing behind his shoulder. I'm I feel I'm in Insidious. It's so cool.
I love making this perfect gorgeous man go through hell.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Cape Fear is streaming now on Apple TV with new episodes released every Friday. Malia, Lily, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Buying a home has become a lot tougher for many families, especially as prices continue to climb and inventory stays tight. Some people believe modern manufacturer and modular homes can help ease the shortage and create more affordable options. Joining us today is Brad Lovin, Executive Director of the North Carolina Manufacturer Modular Home Builders Association. Welcome to the show, Brad. How are you, my friend?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, housing affordability has become a major concern all across North Carolina and more. Why has this become such a big challenge?
Well, we're a growing state. North Carolina is probably growing faster than most any other state in the Southeast, and the supply of housing is not meeting that demand. That's why we are excited to talk more about how manufactured and modular homes can meet that demand and help families all across North Carolina.
And what kind of policy changes could help expand the housing supply while also supporting local communities and economies?
We have too many barriers that regulate the placement of manufactured homes, and they need to be modernized. Most of the local governments all across North Carolina either severely restrict the placement of manufactured homes or they just outright prohibit. And we need to change that if we want to give families an opportunity to participate in the in home ownership and save a little money while they're purchasing the home.
Manufactured and modular homes have changed a heck of a lot over the years. How are today's homes different from what many people may remember?
We build our homes in a controlled environment. Manufacturers from all across the state. North Carolina's fortunate that we have a large number of production facilities, more than any other state in the Southeast. They've changed a lot because the code that they're built to has been updated. The laws that regulate their placement has not. Home that was built in the 80s, 40 plus years ago, is a lot different than a modern home that's being built today. The homes that are being built today are built to a standard to withstand North Carolina's extreme weather, whether it's the hurricanes or snow, and the quality, the innovations in design and technology all have been updated in the building code, but we're missing the local government piece that denies the placement of our manufactured home.
And how can these more attainable housing options help families and first-time homebuyers get into a home?
Saves them money. A typical manufactured home costs about 30% less than a conventional site-built home. But I would point out that some people equate affordability with less quality. That's not the case. Again, our homes are built to a modern building code that meets or exceeds, in some cases, the code that a conventional site-built home is built to. But primarily, it will save them money and can save them time, and they can actually afford to purchase a home in North Carolina.
All right, Brad, where can we go for more information?
You can go to housingthatworksnc.com. There's a lot of the questions and answers there on the website, and to learn more about today's modern manufactured home.
Hey, Brad, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
It feels like everyone is talking about GLP-1 medications these days, but figuring out who qualifies and what they actually cost can be confusing. A new Medicare Bridge program can make these medications more affordable for millions of people. Joining us is Deanna Worth, Walmart Pharmacy Manager, to help explain what these changes mean. Welcome to the show, Deanna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good here, too. A lot of people have heard about this new Medicare GLP-1 Bridge program, but what should Medicare beneficiaries actually know about it?
So the new Medicare Bridge program, like you said, is for Medicare beneficiaries. It offers some new GLP-1 options and also a lower copay for these options that's about $50 for eligible patients. This can sound really complicated for a lot of our customers and patients, and we know they have questions. We want them to know that you don't have to navigate this process alone. We're here to help you understand what your options are and to feel confident throughout that process.
What are the biggest questions you're hearing from people about GLP-1 medications and weight management?
Yeah, so we do get a lot of questions regarding GLP-1s, but at Walmart, we're ready for these questions, and we want our customers to come in and ask us. The questions that they're asking is, would this GLP-1 be right for me? What should I expect? We talk through potential side effects, maybe drug interactions with their current medications, what their copay could potentially be, and maybe conversation as to what you might want to talk to your provider about as far as if this might fit in your overall health journey. And what customers are telling us is that, they're not just wanting to lose weight. They want to feel better and improve their overall health.
And beyond filling prescriptions, how can pharmacists help people make informed decisions about whether these medications are right for them?
Yeah, that's where your pharmacist can really make a difference. We're accessible and convenient. We're ready to answer your questions about side effects, maybe what to expect, connect you with additional resources, talk about supplements, nutrition, what foods to prioritize, and we can just be your trusted partner to navigate this overall health journey.
And Walmart Wellness Day is coming up on Saturday the 25th. What can people expect if they stop by?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me about this. So on July 25th, we have the Walmart Wellness Day. This is a great example of how we're making health and wellness more convenient and accessible for our customers. At Walmart, we offer free health and vision screenings, low-cost immunizations, and you can come in and talk one-on-one with your local Walmart pharmacist.
All right, Deanna, where can people go for more information?
So you can visit us at walmart.com/GLP1 or always come in and visit your local Walmart pharmacist.
Hey, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Have you ever noticed your hand shaking and wondered when it's more than just getting older? Essential Tremor affects millions of people and can make even simple daily tasks a real challenge. Today, we're joined by Ruth Essler, who has been experiencing firsthand, along with movement disorder specialist Dr. Philip Tipton, to talk about new treatment plans that are helping people regain their independence. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Ruth, when did you first realize your tremors were beginning to affect your everyday life, and what was that experience like?
Well, it was probably in my late 50s, and it wasn't a nice experience. The shaking, initially just the shaking of hands, minor shaking of hands, got worse, progressively worse. And that's when I was later diagnosed with tremors.
Dr. Tipton, how did you and Ruth decide that deep brain stimulation was the right treatment option for her?
Yeah, so Ruth's story may sound familiar to millions of Americans that are battling with essential tremor. There are numerous medications, numerous therapy options available for essential tremor, oral medications, injections like into the neck to help with head tremor. And Ruth went through all of these, but like roughly half of patients with essential tremor, she wasn't getting the mileage that she was looking for from these typical therapies. So that's when we began to discuss more advanced therapies like deep brain stimulation or DBS.
Dr. Tipton, what has changed with the latest advances in deep brain stimulation technology, and who may be a candidate for it?
Yeah, so I'm working with Boston Scientific to raise awareness about DBS, which is a technology that involves providing an electrical signal to the brain from an electrode that's connected to an implanted device called a stimulator. And then when we provide that electrical signal, we're able to improve movement symptoms. In Ruth's case, that was tremor. And so Ruth received Boston Scientific's Vercise Genus system as well as Cartesia X directional leads. Now, this new technology allows providers like me greater flexibility when we're programming the device to make sure we're stimulating the right brain regions to improve those movement symptoms.
Ruth, since receiving deep brain stimulation therapy, how has your day-to-day life changed?
Tremendously. It was life-changing. Literally, I was able to go back to a fully functional and independent person again. And the best part about it is that immediately after the procedure, there was an impact. I mean, I came out of the operating room, and once I regained consciousness, I was able to show off my hands and how they didn't shake at all.
And finally, where can people go if they'd like to learn more?
You can go to dbsandme.com to learn more about the Boston Scientific System, as well as general indications, precautions, and risks associated with DBS.
Ruth, Dr. Tipton, I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Do you know someone who always helps others but never asks for recognition? McAllister's Deli is celebrating hometown heroes this summer with its Community Connections campaign, leading up to Free Tea Day, July 16th. Joining us is Aron TenEych, the Vice President of Operations for McAllister's Deli. Welcome, Aron.
Hey, thank you, Abby.
Free Tea Day has become a tradition. How has it grown into a bigger summer celebration?
So that's, I'm glad you asked. Free Tea Day started back in 2009, and it was really the brand. We were looking for a way to basically thank our guests for their support of our business in the towns or communities in which we exist. And the idea to buy a guest a drink on that day, that's what we decided to do. It was wildly successful. Guests really appreciate it. What we didn't recognize at the time was how meaningful it was for our staff members to be able to give that drink to a guest they see every day, right? We all know that we love to receive things, but giving can feel so good. So as the years have gone on, and the more we talk about how we can work in our communities and help support our communities, the idea of community connections came to life.
What can people expect on Free Tea Day this July 16th?
So as per usual, any and all guests are invited to come to the restaurant, participating in McAllister's Delis. There's no purchase necessary. And we're just asking you to come in and allow us to buy you a drink to show our appreciation for the support of our restaurant or for the work that you do in your community.
What is Community Connections and what inspired it?
So we recognized how good it feels to give. And we recognize that there are a lot of people in our communities that don't get the recognition they probably deserve. That being what we refer to as our hometown heroes, be it firemen, police officers, nurses, teachers. So I said, how do we continue to connect in communities? How do we continue to show our appreciation for not only people that support us, but how they support the community? So we created Community Connections, and basically for the last 3 weeks and up until the 12th, our team members, our staff members, the managers have been given tea passes, which they are going out and we're meeting these people in their workplace. We're telling them thank you for everything you do to make our community stronger. And we're gifting them with 30 days of free tea. That's the expansion of Free Tea Day.
Where can people go for more information?
They can go to @McAllister's Deli on Instagram or Facebook.
Aron, thank you so much for putting this on, and we appreciate that. And thank you for talking with us.
Abby, thank you for having us and letting us share our message.
Alrighty, Raleigh, that's going to do it for this week's Rise and Unwind. Hopefully you're feeling a little more awake, or at least one step closer to it. Thanks for starting your morning with us, and if you want more in between shows, you can always find us on socials @Rise Unwind, and we can keep hanging out. Until next time, have a great morning, Raleigh.